We've decided to become property flippers. Watch this. There's one thing that everyone likes to do when investing and working in real estate, and that is try to make money. And in this buyer's market, or what I see as a buyer's market at this point in time, we see opportunity for renovators due to the high cost of trades, the high cost of materials, the difficulty to buy a $500,000 asset. We're looking at buying a flipping property at the moment. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you a recent story where we went to auction to try and buy a property to flip. I'm going to break down how we came up with the numbers and what the property actually looked like and what we were going to do in terms of adding value to the property and the end sale price we were expecting to achieve. My name's Luke and I talk all things real estate, renovating and financial freedoms. So if you could drop a like on this video and subscribe down below, that would really help me out. So why on earth are we looking at property flipping? I said in the past on the YouTube channel that I think property flipping might be dead. So why on earth are Emily and I going to try and give this a crack? Well, if you've been following along on the YouTube channel, we're actually planning on doing our dream house raise and build here in Greenslopes in Brisbane. We've got a little two-bedder, which is the triple Gable Queenslander that we're in at this point in time, and we're planning on lifting up this house and building underneath. The problem is that takes a lot of money, probably around about $300,000, even being an owner builder. The numbers break down roughly as, say, a $100,000 budget for the raise, a $100,000 budget for the fit out, and a $100,000 budget for the extras, carport, swimming pool, landscaping, all those sorts of things. So we think we need about 200 to 300 grand to complete our owner builder project. Now what this means is we want to try and do these cookie cutter or chunk deals to make some more capital in the short term that we can then push into our dream house project. So that's exactly how we ended up going towards this auction. Being a buyer's agent and seeing properties in the market every day of the week, I had an understanding of what we were looking for. We were looking for something with cosmetic renovation potential. That means we wanted the walls in the building to have structural integrity. We didn't want to have too many issues with the roof or gutters or low value areas. We really wanted to just add value through cosmetic renos. So carpet, flooring, painting, upgrading the kitchens and the bathrooms. We just wanted to keep the floor plan as is on these renovation projects or these flipping projects and add as much value as possible through our DIY renovations. So enough background about why we're doing this and how we plan on doing it. Let me show you this property and then I'll walk you through the auction scenario. So the property that we were interested in this case was 3 Samantha Street in Boronia Heights. It was a 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car home on about 700 square meters of land. So from that perspective, it was a large home in this area. It was on a good sized block, and this is in an affordable belt. So renovated 4-bed, 2-bath houses are selling around the $600,000 mark. So working backwards on the numbers, we thought the renovation was going to cost us about $35,000 to $40,000. Doing it DIY ourselves, and so we needed to buy the house sub 500k. Now I'll reveal to you the intricate numbers. I've got a flipping deal calculator that I'll show you in this video a little bit later, but let's walk through the house first and show you what we plan to do with the property. So you can see on the front here, it doesn't have much curbside appeal. You can see some tire marks on the left-hand side where people have been parking their trailer or their boat. And so we were going to put in some hedging. We budgeted about $500 just to tidy up the front yard, do some basic mulching and hedging, and that was the plan for the front. Now, the next thing we were going to do on the exterior was paint it. So instead of having this old brick, instead of rendering as well, it's much cheaper just to paint. So we would have done probably a light gray and painted the bricks on the exterior of the home. There was a great example in the same street where another home had been renovated doing exactly this. So it's a cheaper way to add value to a property and to give it some more curbside appeal. This was the kitchen. It had pink cupboards and a very old benchtop, but we were planning on resurfacing the benchtop, pulling down the current window covering, putting in a new light, repainting the cabinetry, and maybe keeping the same handles because they were a nice timber look. So we probably would have gone a light grey on the benchtops, kept the tiles on the backsplash, and painted the cupboards maybe a dark monument style colour to really revitalise them and give them new life. That's a wider shot of the kitchen. And here's another shot of the living space as well. So the plan with the flooring was to rip up all of the floors that were in place and put down luxury vinyl planks. So they're about $25 to $30 a square meter. So relatively affordable. And we were going to put that throughout the home, except for the bedrooms, which we were going to have carpeted. This is the reverse shot looking back towards the kitchen and out onto the back deck. And this is the front room, which was carpeted. And as you can see, there's stains everywhere. It's pretty filthy. This property was a deceased estate. And so the person who was living there couldn't really keep up with the maintenance of the home, and hence why it's in this condition. This is another shot of that front living room. There's some great windows there. And again, we're just going to paint the walls white on white. We like to paint both the ceiling and the walls white on white so you can get your ceiling paint tinted. And that means you don't have to cut in the cornicing, which is a really great thing. So we would have whipped out the paint sprayer, pulled off all the window furnishings or the window coverings, given the whole house a repaint. Then we would have moved to the flooring next and then finishing off the kitchen. So moving through the home, this is the bonus dining space, which looks over the carport at the front of the property. You can see there's a bit of wiring hanging out of the ceiling. I think someone ran an Ethernet cable to that room. This is one of the front bedrooms. Again, the carpet is in disgusting condition. This is the master bedroom. Now, these two mirrored built-in robes would be quite expensive to replace. So we would keep this as is and just, again, replace the window coverings, replace the carpet, replace the ceiling fan, give it a paint, and move on. Another bedroom from another perspective, there was a few holes in the walls here or there, and so we were going to patch that up ourselves, and we were going to replace all of the ceiling fans in each of the bedrooms. Another shot of one of the bedrooms as well. This is the master bathroom, so we would need to replace the entire vanity and probably frame out around the toilet to give it some more appeal, but just doing the bare minimum to upgrade the home and revitalize it. And finally, the shared bathroom in the center of the home, where the shower screen needed replacing. We'd probably tile paint the wall tiles and leave the floor tiles and put in a new vanity. So now you've seen the home, what do you think? What would you have changed to this property if you were looking to do a flipping project? Do you think what we planned on doing was the right amount of work, or was it going to cost too much to do all of these things? Now, it's probably time I share with you the numbers on our flipping calculator and how we came up with the number to actually stop bidding at auction. So this is the flip calculator that I built to go towards the auction of 3 Samantha Street in Boronia Heights. Now, why this property or why this suburb? The reason we liked this area is it was built out, it had limited land supply, and we could see the comparable sales in the area. It was also at our price point. Oh, I'm choking up. It was also at our price point. So we had a look here. The block was 701, 4-bed, 2-bath, 2-car, with a taxable land value of $265,000. Now, what we were looking to achieve is a sale price of $600,000 because based on the comparable sales in the area, we could see comparable sales as low as say $550 and as high as $650, and we were working towards the target of a 4-bed, 2-bath renovated home going for about that $600K mark. Now, working backwards, we also wanted to make a minimum of a $50,000 profit. That's just the number that we picked. You could work with larger or smaller margins, but we didn't want to go ahead and do all of this work and not make a tidy profit. So $50K was the minimum ballpark. That means that expenses in this case added up to $544,000, which would be a 10% return on your costs. So let's break down the costs of actually doing the deal. So we had targeted a purchase price at auction of $481K. The solicitor's fees on our end, stamp duty, lending fees, and additional interest and those types of things would add up to a total of $513,152. Now, the lender we were looking at using was going to give us about a 65% LVR with roughly a 10% interest rate for a 6-month term. So it's a short-term deal. Rough maths on $500,000 at 10% a year is $50,000 a year. So at most, if you held the property for the full 6 months, then you'll be paying around about $25,000 in interest expense, which means time is money when it comes to flipping projects. The good thing about these lenders, even if they charge an incredibly high interest rate, is that you can get flexibility. So if we'd sold the deal within 3 months, we wouldn't have to pay the interest for the full 6 months. So it was a flexible deal on a month-to-month basis, and we really had planned to turn this project over in about 3 to 6 months at most. So those were the purchase and holding costs. Now let's break down our renovation costs. Because we're DIY renovators and we have a fair few of the tools in place and connections with trades here in the Brisbane market, we budgeted around $27,000 to do this deal. So paint inside and out, paint kitchen cabinets, bench tops, kitchen repairs, tapware, a new vanity, shower screens, landscaping, new floors throughout. There's a spelling mistake. New floors throughout the home, electrical repairs, and an aircon in the living area, and a new hot water tank, and then a miscellaneous budget of an additional $5,000. So all in all, we were expecting to spend about $27K. That could have gone up to say $35K. We've done a fair few reno projects in our time, so we thought that was a fairly decent budget if we were doing the project DIY. Finally, the sale costs. We would probably sell the home ourselves. I have a real estate license, and we would only ever sell our own projects. It doesn't make sense for us to hand it over to a real estate agent and give them 10, 15, 20 grand for doing a couple of open homes and selling the property themselves. Given our experience and the way we can save money here, why wouldn't we sell the property ourselves? So we budgeted $400 for photography, a couple of $1,000s to list the property online, and some legal fees involved in that process. So $3,900 to sell the property ourselves. So the total cost of all that came to $544K, and you can see here the cash required is $544,000. So based on that lending partner, they would provide around about $300K, and then partner 1 and partner 2 would put in around $124,000 each. Now we're looking at doing a bit of a joint venture with my parents, who want to put some cash into these deals and potentially make a profit with us as well. So we would only do that with a trusted partner. We could try and take these projects on ourselves, but given we want to do these deals quickly and we want a bit of a team to do that, my parents will come out and do the projects with us, help us renovate, get stuck into the nitty and gritty of doing it DIY. And so we discussed between ourselves. We've done a lot of renovation projects before. You've probably seen my dad on most of our previous renovations. And so that made sense for us to go and do this as a joint venture. So the magic number at the end of all that is that we were looking to make a profit of $55,948 for roughly a 3-month turnaround time. So what exactly happened at the auction? Now you've seen the property and now you've seen the numbers, it's time to close this story out with what actually happened. Now Emily and I went to the auction on a Saturday morning and bid on the property. I was the registered bidder. Emily stood in the background and just let me do my thing, which was cool. And there were about 10 to 12 registered bidders at the auction. Everyone's looking for a deal in these types of scenarios where the home needs a fair bit of work, and so most people are hoping it will go for an astronomically low number. Now to remind you, we'd set our maximum purchase price at that $481K, but with chatting with Emily on the way to the auction and the days prior to the auction, we'd actually increase that a little bit, by up to $485,000. We could see there was value in paying that few extra $1,000 if it was going to get to that $485K mark. But if the auction was going to go over that price, it wouldn't have made sense for us to secure this deal. So the auction kicked off and it was a little bit unusual. There was probably about 4 bidders competing in the initial instance, and the auction opened up around the $350,000 mark. It bid up in weird increments. Typically, auctioneers will only allow large increments, or I think quality auctioneers will only allow large increments because that pushes up the price in large chunks rather than getting to $1,000 increments early on. Now, what ended up happening is one bidder kept bidding in $1,000 increments, and these bids were being readily accepted by the auctioneer. I don't think that's the best for the sellers, because that means that that bidder would, if they're willing to go all the way, is only going to pay $1,000 more than another bidder, rather than if the property went up in large chunks, say in $20,000 increments or $10,000 increments, it means they have to pay a sizable amount more than another bidder. So what ended up happening is it started at $350K and worked its way up to around the low 400s fairly quickly. At this point, the $1,000 bidder continued to bid their $1,000 bids, and the other 2 bidders that were competing were going back in around $5,000 to $10,000 increments. So it went from $400 to $415 to $425 to $426 to $430 to $431 and so on, and stalled around the $440K mark. Now this was good news to me, and at this point I hadn't placed a single bid. If you've watched any of my bidding or auction strategy videos before, I tend to like to withdraw my demand from the auction, let the auction play out, see when the property is listed as on the market, and then look to make my move in terms of the bidding scenario. So the auction stalled around that $440K mark, which was looking good for me, which means we could potentially pick up the property between $440 and our target price of $480K. The auctioneer stalled the auction, and the real estate agents went away to have a chat with the vendors. After a few minutes had passed, the property was announced as on the market at around that $440K mark. And that's when all the other bidders, other than our $1,000 bidder, had tipped out. And this is where I started to bid. I began bidding in $5,000 increments and rapidly returning the bids. So we went from $440,000 to about $480,000 in the matter of about 30 seconds. So it was $450,000, $451,000, $455,000, $456,000, and so on, all the way up to $480,000. Now, as we inched towards our limit around that $485K, that's where I slowed my bidding to $1,000 increments. Now, in hindsight, I could have done larger chunks, so maybe bid 15 or 20 grand rather than a $5,000 increments, but hindsight's 2020. So it is what it is, and we ended up reaching the limit of our bidding at $485,000. And that bid was sitting with the other bidder. And what that means is we were tapped out at that point. I gave Emily a look and that was it. We weren't going to bid any further. We'd set that limit. We didn't want to go and do all of this work on a project if we weren't going to make around that 50K mark in terms of profit. So the other bidder ended up winning this property for $485,000. So what does this mean for us going forward? And are we going to continue looking for flips? I've got my flip calculator in place and I know the Brisbane market very well, and we can see these types of properties pop up every now and then. A lot of these deals go for too much money, and I think this deal would have pushed our budget if it had gone any further. I think the other bidder would have probably gone to about the 500K mark, which is why it's important to set your limit and stop bidding once you hit that price cap. So we are going to look for future projects, and that's why you need to subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video. So I'm going to be sharing our future renovation projects and our future flipping projects and everything that's going on in the Brisbane market and talking about real estate across Australia. So if you enjoyed this type of video, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you thought about this property. Were we going to pay too much once you've seen the numbers and you've seen the home? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you made it this far through the video, my course, Invest with Purpose, is on a one-off sale. I've had chats with people that are looking for the course to be significantly discounted. And so for the next 10 people, we've discounted the course to only $1,100. So if you're interested in growing your real estate knowledge and taking your investing journey to the next level, head over to my website and have a look at the course. Otherwise, drop a like on this video, subscribe down below, and click this video over here for more things real estate, renovating, and financial freedom. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.